call the meeting to order at 2:37, give or take. And I'll entertain a motion on the minutes.
I feel like something's missing.
Okay, should we get a motion first and we can amend it? Or would you
Okay.
prefer not to do that?
I motion we not accept the
Okay.
minutes as written.
Okay, that's fine. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second that.
So let's have some discussion.
I, at the last meeting, asked you about one of the 11 topics that we had discussed earlier in the semester and unanimously agreed on, specifically the fiscal salary comparative study. And the response was basically that the faculty need to go to the table on it, although BRAC had agreed unanimously that we should do this.
Okay, so why don't you do this, if you'd like, is go ahead and write something up, resubmit it, and we'll go
Okay.
ahead and plug it into the minutes.
Thank you, I
And,
appreciate that.
and if there's an issue with anything about it, we'll bring it up at the next meeting.
Okay,
So with that amendment, would you care to change your motion?
if that gets added, then I would
Okay.
accept the minutes.
Okay, so we have a motion from Dr. Kiotis. Do I have a motion from Dr. Kiotis. Do I have a second on that? Jordan, did you second it?
I
All right,
second.
Danny. With a second from Danny, that the minutes will be approved with the addition of language that Dr. Kiotis will provide that speaks to the faculty survey question issue topic. Okay, does that work? Okay, further comments or questions or discussion items? Cha, are you here representing someone?
No, I'm an alternate. I believe Gary said he was going to be.
Okay, well, why don't you come up to the table if you'd like.
There's a card for you.
Oh, there is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here you go, Gary.
Okay, so anyway, we have a motion.
Here you go, Tom. You can be you today.
You can be you today, right?
You get to be you.
You get to be me.
Okay, here's Penella. So you're right here in time for the vote, Penella. So let me tell you what we're voting on. We have a motion on the table
Okay.
by Julie, seconded by Danny, to accept the minutes as amended. The amendment will be language that Dr. Kiotis provides relative to faculty salary survey. And if for some reason there's an issue with that language, then I'll bring it back at the next meeting. We can talk about it. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
I'm going to abstain. I wasn't here.
Deborah will abstain. So with that in mind, the record will reflect that Cha is here as an alternate representing Gary in issue CFT today. And Deborah is here representing the Classified Senate and Carl Robinson. Okay? Very good. And then Jordan is here, Danny's here, Julie's here, Nella's here, and I am here. All right, moving on then. Public comment. Is there anybody from the public who wishes to state anything at the moment? Hi, public. Public, good. Okay, good. All right, no public comment at the moment. So now we're going to talk, item number 4, we have a general category of budget development and announcements, and Joe is going to talk to us and provide a Cronus system update.
Okay, so in the last meeting, there were some concerns about hourly staff and whether or not, or when they clocked out, they may be about a minute late, and our system is set up to automatically deduct a half hour because in the state of California and with the district's policy, if you work 5 hours or more, you automatically have a 30-minute unpaid lunch. So we're doing a couple of different things because the major issue here is it's a policy decision. Some time ago, a decision was made that at 5 hours, if you worked a minute more, 30 minutes would automatically be taken out. But we're having a hard time because some student workers or hourly college assistants may clock out a minute late and it automatically deducts a half hour, which means that the supervisor has to go in and make an edit in the system. So one, what we're trying to do in the meantime until the policy decision is made, we have purchased and purchased a little while ago about 35 biometric clocks. And we did that for a couple of different reasons. And one of them is out in the hallway if you want to look at one later. But what that does is when the system goes down, it allows you to clock in and out, and that information is collected so that hourly person doesn't have to go in after the fact when the system is back up and running and clock in and out, and the supervisor doesn't have to go in and make an edit on the date and the time. So it's a good thing to have anyway. We are, I think if memory serves, we have 35 machines that we are going to put across campus. So they're easily accessible, they're in main open areas, and so that should help with the problem. We're also upgrading our Kronos software this year, and we've held off on signing on the software agreement because what we're trying to negotiate as part of that package is having Kronos come out and do some type of information collection session to make the system a little more user-friendly. So we'll give you an update on that. We did do a training memo on Kronos, and we sent it out a few months ago, and I'm asking Harold to make copies for us. But what we did was, and what I'd like to repeat here, is that we are at your discretion or your disposal. So whatever issues you are having related to Kronos, please let us know, and we can set up a specific training for you and your staff and address the specific topics in Kronos that you guys are having issues with. And whether it's 1 training or 5 trainings, it's okay. Whatever you guys need, Maggie and her staff will be out there to help, okay? And one other thing that we're trying to discuss and develop is maybe a 2-minute video specific to how to go in as a supervisor and correct or make a edit in Kronos for somebody who has a minute more or more time over the 5 hours when a half hour automatically gets deducted. Yeah.
Can we get a video like that for the faculty?
There is a video like that. I will see if it's specific to faculty, but I think it's specific to all permanent staff.
Okay, so
And
how
it's
you see
literally-
your hours?
Yeah, I'll double check, but it's literally, yeah, if you go to the business services website and you click on payroll, are we talking about the same thing or something different? And you
No,
click
you're
on
right.
payroll, there's literally, I think, a 5-minute video on how to do that.
But the one thing that does affect faculty, that Julie's right, so you can go in really quickly and it shows you how to clock and check your hours.
Mhm.
There are some changes that are going to be happening in both the overload for the spring that we need to be aware of, and then substitutes. So now if I go to a conference, or Julie goes to a conference, or is sick, or something happens and we get a sub to cover our class, we need to have a video that shows us how to,
Sure.
because now we're responsible for telling that we have a sub. Right. So that's
Well,
gonna,
and let me clarify that.
Yeah.
What I'd like to do is move towards the employee being responsible for checking their time, making sure it's coded correctly and the hours are there. Not every division right now is doing it the same way.
right, no, I know, I'm
You guys
part
are-
of the
you guys
test
are-
division, so we've been doing it for 3 years,
Yeah.
so I already
You
know.
guys may not be there yet.
But
so
that's
don't
what I'm
worry.
saying but I know that that's the next training video that we're gonna need, because as people
Okay.
have subs, we're all gonna need to be able to access that.
And I
first.
was told that if you teach a Monday, Wednesday class, and if you teach the same class on Tuesday, Thursday as an overload, you get paid differently.
Okay. We can look
So we
into
need
that.
to check into that too.
What would be helpful for me though is if you give me if you take a minute or two and just send me an email about these specific issues you're
Okay.
having, because
Alright.
developing a video is not that hard, and it's actually one way that we can address as many people or a ton of people at one time.
Okay.
So if you tell me, we will definitely try to do that for you.
Right.
And this is where APL can be really, really helpful.
Yeah.
In working with business services and helping to be the bridge, if you will, between what the user need in the field really is,
Right.
and what we need to create on our end to make it as clear as possible.
Yeah, we had a conversation a little bit about it, so I know that that's coming out, but I figured we might as well make sure that it's
Yeah, yeah.
on places.
And yeah, with our Lancer Lens facility downstairs, we can easily put together a video that would be helpful, so sure.
So just to go back to the biometric clocks, we will be hopefully installing them relatively soon, so there'll be a memo coming out. So if you see it, that's what it's in reference to. And it's really, yeah, it's Kronos for the hourly employees. They actually can do a thumbprint, and when the system goes down, it collects their time stamp, and when the system comes back up, it automatically posts their time.
Moving to retinal scanning. It's not
Yeah.
just hourly though. It's not just hourly
hourly.
employees that use the
The
Kronos.
biometric.
Who else?
Well, it's again,
Facilities use
facilities
it, we're not hourly.
uses them as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, good.
But we
That's
actually
great.
have an aide, her print doesn't work, so she has to do it on the computer. in
Yeah,
order to kind of
some
figure it
people,
out.
the grooves in your fingerprint are very shallow, so it doesn't pick up. For the most part, it will capture. That happened with me with the live scan. I had to press my hand down a few times. But that's the update for kernels.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, further questions on that? We'll move on then to the fund. So in your packet, Cindy provided a couple of documents. We provided the actual compliance form that Crystal Kalras completes annually that has to have the superintendent's sign off. And without getting into something I really couldn't even begin to get into anyway, it's a very, very long, complex calculation and formula that brings us to what is known as the full-time faculty obligation number, or FFON, the fund. And you'll note that the calculation that we came to was, we came to a total of 386.31 full-time faculty. The document, the further document I attached is a copy of the full-time faculty obligation for all of the 112 California community colleges. And second item down from the top of the second page is the Pasadena Area Community College District. So I'll give everybody a second to get there.
This is from the Chancellor's office.
This is from the Chancellor's office. Okay. And again, it's all the individual colleges in our system. So on the top of the second page there, going from left to right, there are 3 fall periods noted. Fall 2011, our calculated advance was 394.2 faculty. Something known as calculated P2 is what we estimated it to be at the time that we did a period 1 reporting, period 2 reporting, and then a period 3 reporting, and then final reporting.
During that semester?
During that year, during that semester,
Okay.
or during that academic period, if you will, 2011, 2012. And then the compliance final, which was what they call that's it final, was 394.2. And what drives all of this is FTES, is the number of students that a district serves. Okay? So that's what it was in 2011. And then we moved into the 2012-13 academic year, and the calculated advances for 11, because we had much lower enrollment, we calculated 372.2, and as it turned out, that was the compliance final. So that was our obligation for that period. Then in the fall of 2013, this fall, we were obligated to have 372.2. I'm sorry, the calculated advance we were told was to be 372.2. When we did the further calculation and we made the adjustment, it came down to 353.2, and that was the final that the Chancellor's office predicted. So as we go into fall of 2014, the Chancellor's office is telling us that the projected required number of full-time faculty effective fall 14 is 358.2. Okay? So you take that information and you reconcile it to the calculations that we did, and you come to a number of 386.31 is the number of full-time faculty that we now have pursuant to the to our calculations, which of course will be validated, verified, and that will be where we are right now, going forward. So,
What,
So, yeah, that's good. So can we, I mean, so you have a number here, but could we somehow see how that's calculated? I mean, because that
what
to
is the
me is what's important.
Chancellor's office
That's-
calculation?
well, let me put it to you this way. I'm sure that if you wanted to, Crystal would sit down with you and spend a lot of time trying to explain to you how the calculation is derived. It's a very complicated formula. And then that information is sent to the Chancellor's office, and it is recalculated based upon the FTES that's reported. And the Chancellor's office either validates it or doesn't validate it. And then from an auditing point of view, the Department of Finance at some point gets into the whole mix as well. So it's checked and double checked. Again, it's driven by FTES. So, our FTS at one point was this, and then it dropped to this because of the state's fiscal situation. I have no doubt that in fall of 2015 and fall of 2016, the number will go back up again on the basis of the number of students that we're serving now. This is just a mathematical formula.
So two things. I don't want to take Crystal's time, but they must have some documentation, so if somebody comes in and audits them, they go, look, this is how we calculate it.
And Crystal would, Crystal.
So if we could just get the paperwork, and then if I don't understand it, which I'm sure I won't, but then I can go talk to her.
That's fine. I mean, I'll ask her for it. It'll take time, but
Yeah,
sure.
that's fine.
Yeah.
So, oh, sorry, Dan, go ahead.
No,
Just-
you're a member, go ahead, just public.
Just one other thing is, if it's driven by FTES, I don't understand how the number could have gone down by almost 20 faculty for the fall of 2013.
Well, it's all it's all it's a calculation that's done in arrears. That's one thing. And the other issue about it, it's a number that is roundly discussed up and down the state for its accuracy and inaccuracy, because it has everything to do with the 75-25, it has everything to do with the 50% law.
Right.
And most districts, I gotta tell you, by far, skate on that line as thin as possible. We've not been one of those districts historically. We've usually been on the plus side with our numbers. But I can't tell you how many districts are out there right now who are in pain. Some of you may be aware. You notice on the reporting sheet that it says the average full-time faculty replacement cost this year is $69,352. Okay. For many, many years, districts that did not achieve their FFON were fined $69,300, well, whatever the number was, they were fined that number for every one that they didn't do. So we were always very cognizant of that. Nobody ever wanted to get fined. When 2007-8 came and we had the fiscal crash, the Board of Governors, I'll get you in a second, I promise. The Board of Governors basically they declined to actually apply that fine for a while. They basically set that aside. But we're, I believe, at the last meeting of the Board of Governors, which is actually, yeah, the one that occurred a couple of weeks ago, they reinstated that fine now, which is why there's so many districts out there that are very, very upset, because they're going to get nailed. We're not going to get nailed, but they're going to get nailed. So in any event, I will ask Crystal, and Cindy, please remind me to do that. I will ask Crystal to either send the formula or ask Danny to come in and open up her paperwork to you, Danny, to see how this calculation came about, and then we'll go from there.
Great, thanks.
So my quick question was, is this faculty who are in the classroom, or is it anybody who's assigned as a faculty, whether they're teaching or not?
It's all of our full-time faculty. The answer is the latter. It's all the full-time faculty that we have on the books, including counselors, including librarians. And at last count, folks, we had 33 faculty on release time, full-time equivalent faculty on release time. And it's a little bit of a large number, to be honest with you. But that's what this last week I asked for HR to recalculate that, and we haven't had a chance to really delve into it yet. And that's something that Dr. Bell and that end of the house is going to have to look at. But
33.
33. It's a pretty big. It seemed to be a big number to me. So, but anyway, and they're all doing stuff. I mean, it's the question, but they're not doing it in front of a class of students. So, and it's good stuff, I presume, but it is an issue that I think we're going to have to look at. I'm sorry. Yeah, you've been very quick.
Okay, Bob, these numbers, these are not caps. We could go over them if we wanted to, right?
Absolutely.
Okay,
We could hire 500 faculty if you wanted to. That's just, this is the floor.
okay.
And what you get fined if you don't hit your floor. If you want to have 100 people over your floor, you can do whatever you want.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's all that this means. It's a good clarification. Thanks, man.
I had a question about
Sure.
so the advanced calculation, you had said these are done in arrears. Is that also done in arrears? The advanced makes me
Yeah,
think it's not.
For example, right now, the Chancellor's Office is projecting for us 358.2.
Does that become our calculated advance?
Yeah, it often does. Okay, and that's not a, it often does is not a yes or no.
But not necessarily.
But not necessarily.
Okay.
Lately, the Chancellor's Office, when I say lately, I'm going to say the last 4 or 5 years, they have had such a hard time with this number, with calculating this number. So what's interesting, this year,
When you say, I'm sorry, when you say this number, do you mean calculated
I
advance
was
or
gonna
the
say,
projection?
if you go to the fall 2013, and you see the compliance final number of 353.2,
Yeah.
then you go to fall 14 projected, and it says 358.2. Somewhere along the line, I'm looking at 14. So here's your compliance final 353.2. Then if you go to the projected 14, you see 358.2. So somewhere in some Chancellor's Office computer up there, they're saying PCC, you're going to have 5 full-time equivalent faculty over what we say your compliance final is a year earlier. So from fall of 13 to fall of 14, they're telling us we have to have 358.2. And we have more than that, but if we didn't, like most districts, I keep using the term most, many districts do not, that might be a problem for them.
So, and then that percentage right after that, that is the percentage of sections that are taught by full-time faculty.
That's the full-time faculty percentage, and that's part of the
Supposed to be
50%
this.
law calculation, if you will.
Oh, I thought that was
Not
the,
the-
no, the 75-25.
75-25. 75% of your classes are supposed to be taught by full-time faculty.
But
Right.
this is saying that only 50, this.
This is telling you that if you get to 50% or below, and you don't have at least 50% of your money going to direct instruction, you will be fined by the community college system, and you will be in
Whatever
trouble.
that
This is the
Whatever number.
50% law? Because it says
Well,
the
this
full-time
is-
faculty
this
percentage,
is
so
one
I
of the
thought it was
cal-
talking about the 75-25 law.
This is one of the calculations that goes into computing the 50% law.
Well, okay, but this number is actually indicating, because the title up there says, and again, I don't know, I'm just asking, but it says full-time faculty percentage, so I'm assuming, but again, correct me if I'm wrong, that means that we are teaching 56.58, I think it says, of our sections with full-time faculty. So we're not to the 75-25, I know nobody is.
No, but-
we're at 56-45, whatever it is.
Well,
44, something like that.
and I think the answer to your question is you are correct. And the way that I say that, you look at some of the ones that are in the 70% range. Well, that can't be true about San Mateo. That can't be true. Like West Hills, I believe, for example. West Valley Mission, I believe. Yosemite, I would definitely believe, because they're much smaller schools.
San Mateo's, please.
But if you look at, what's another one? Now, Citrus is 71.98%. I'm not sure I would believe that. Well, look at the trouble Copper Mountain must be in. They're at 30.37%. The answer is, I'll get a better definition.
Okay.
Cindy, make a note of that too, of what exactly that full-time faculty percentage
Means, yeah, okay.
means.
Thanks.
I'll get a better definition of that.
Barstow's
And is Barstow low too? Where's Barstow? Yeah, Barstow's low with Contra Costa.
And all
Barstow
schools
is still
count
looking.
non-teaching faculty in this number?
Yeah, they have to. I mean, that's part of the calculation. Now, you'll also notice, without getting into too much of this, there's an option A and an option B, 5 and 6 on the compliance form. And the option B, when things got really tight money-wise, the Chancellor's Office came up with the ability to approach this from a percentage perspective. Percentage of full-time equivalent faculty attributable to full-time faculty shortage for fall 12, as opposed to a straight line calculation. And in many respects, that helped the colleges for whatever reason, the districts for whatever reason. They're not allowing that anymore. In other words, they're basically saying no more creative accounting on your full-time faculty obligation number. You've got to go with the straight, body-to-body type thing. And Crystal will tell you that there's another bizarre calculation having to do with temporary faculty and part-time assignments that, for counseling and other types of things. Danny will get into it with her, but it's quite significant. Crystal loves this time of year. She's got to sit down and figure out this report. It's like she doesn't like it. And I'm glad she does and I don't do it. I'm not even sure I could do it, to be honest with you. So,
How do they calculate the adjuncts? Just add up is it
yeah,
the students?
it's
Like students times contact hours, or?
exactly. The students times contact hours, weekly student contact versus daily student contact. There's Wish, there's Dish, there's several ways in which they capture the data, and then they, as all accountants will tell you, they can make the numbers say pretty much what they need to make them say. I think Danny said that a few times to me, as a matter of fact.
So there are several acceptable methods to reach a final
Well,
conclusion?
there was the option A
Uh-huh.
and the option B. And what the Chancellor's Office said is that option B, in some cases where you are not, it's not obvious that you have reached it by virtue of the number of full-time faculty you have employed and the number of classes, sections that you offer. But if you will give you option B, which allows you to bring in a number of other factors having to do with adjuncts, having to do with other types of part-time academic assignments, that would bump up the full-time faculty obligation number and
The
make
FTE
the
as four faculty.
exactly, and that's what resulted in some districts passing. But that option, this is the last year we've got that option.
But we have it this year.
But we have this
For
year,
the-
but
for
we
the con-
but we didn't need it. We went with option A because on our peer numbers we were fine. Okay, so the two to-dos on that is Danny and Crystal getting together for a general tutorial, and then me finding out exactly what the fall 2012 full-time faculty percentage number applies to. Okay. Any other questions on that? Okay, benefits committee. Joe.
So, at our last meeting, we requested member names so we could begin to set up and have monthly benefit committee meetings. One of the first things we're going to look at is the information related to the Affordable Care Act and how it's going to impact the district. And in the subsequent meetings, we're going to start looking at the actual data that we have had analyzed by a third-party administrator to tell us how we're doing in relation to the American Affordable Care Act. So the first meeting, the memo is just an update to you because this is where we requested names from the various district groups. The second page are the names of the people and the areas that they're representing. And this is just an information memo to you, letting you know December 19th will be the first meeting with Keenan and Associates, which is our benefits administrator. And then we will be having monthly meetings up until I think it's March 2014. And then the benefits committee will have a decision or discuss and decide whether or not we could move from a monthly meeting to a meeting every 2 months or to a quarterly meeting. What the benefits committee will be tasked with is organizing and providing guidance and direction on health fair types of activities on campus. We'll talk about benefits as the renewal time comes up. We will start to talk about what's in the best interest of the district. So a variety of different topics, but this is the list. So the members will be notified, I think, prior to December 2nd, and they will be told the first meeting will be December 19th, and the calendar will be provided at that time.
Is there a time for that meeting?
Not yet. You mean time like on the
Meeting?
19th? Not yet.
Is there a better time of day for faculty, would you say, in general?
I was actually going to see what day the 19th is.
It's
What
the
day?
third Thursday of
It's a
every month.
Thursday?
There's no time yet, so
Oh.
they were asking, is there a preferred time on the third Thursday?
Or afternoon, it's probably usually better than mornings, I think,
Yeah,
in
I
most
think
cases.
so.
So, like after 2 o'clock or something like that? Yeah.
I have class till 2:45.
Okay.
I was
So-
gonna say, it looks like this time might.
We need a third seat for the active seat.
2:30, 3 o'clock? Okay.
So Mary Aaron, excuse me, has a class till 2:45, so it sounds like a 3 o'clock would be the earliest for Mary Aaron to be involved, right?
Okay.
So, we'll-
If you really, yeah.
yeah, because it looks like we've got Ollie, I don't know if I know who Ollie is, I've met her before. Him,
Oh, I see.
Ollie.
I think BRAC is usually the third Thursday as well.
Oh.
Then we will make an adjustment.
Okay, in any event, it'll be 3 o'clock on a Thursday.
The
so-
purpose of this was to let you know,
Yeah.
one, to thank you for getting names to us, because that's not always easy, but also because we really are trying to schedule and get these things up and running,
So-
which is a good thing.
It's a very good thing. So with that said though, let's try to go 3 o'clock with faculty. Obviously we want to try the faculty here. And just real quick, by virtue of the bullets that Joe's got in the memo here, you see we're still short a couple of appointees.
The appointee and the alternate.
Right. So CSEA, so Ann, that's for Rudy to get on that one, please. And Faculty Association,
I'll-
Julie or Danny,
Yeah,
could you?
I'll email Roger and ask him.
Okay, and then retirees, we need to work with
I actually-
Mary on that one, I think.
No, Maggie has actually reached out. She has a name, but when I wrote the
Okay,
memo, she wasn't
great.
in, so I'll follow.
And then and if someone could let Eduardo know that we're still down one person there. And actually, that's actually pretty good.
We got really good response.
Yes, we did, so thank you for that. Okay, so, you want to mention a little bit about the data that we're working on? Did you mention it?
I did not. So as part of the ACA reconciliation and looking at what the potential pitfalls are that the district would fall into,
What's an ACA?
Affordable Care Act.
Thank you.
Obamacare.
The Obamacare, right?
I was trying to say Affordable Care. So we're collecting all of the information on the district. Then we send that information to our third-party administrator for insurance, and they reconcile it to see if there are any gaps. If there are gaps, we have to address them prior to the first day that healthcare goes into effect. Otherwise, there's the potential that the district could be fined. Right now, we're feeling pretty good that we're fine. But it's a lot of information. It's very cumbersome. Payroll has put together a sample. They're cleaning it up. They're sending it on, or will be in the near future, to Keenan and Associates. We'll get a report back telling us whether or not we've missed anything or if something's not clear, and then we will do the entire report and send it to them so they can give us a full analysis. And that's actually one of the things that the Benefits Committee will look at.
And it does two things. It establishes a baseline for where we are with our benefits package in relation to the Affordability Care Act or Obamacare and what we have to do. You know, you've heard of these expressions about catalog coverage and the fact that those who've got catalog are going to have to pay certain fines because it's above whatever the Affordable Care Act baseline is and all that kind of stuff. So that's one issue. So what will happen is once Keenan completes that analysis, we will ask them to come and do a presentation at the Benefits Committee. So everybody will start the conversation at the same base of informedness, if that's not a word, it's not a word, I know, but informed in at the same level. And then we will begin to look at our benefits packages in relation to the New World Order, and then as a committee, begin to make recommendations through our shared governance process and the like as to what we think has to happen. Obviously, much of that impacts working conditions, so it'll have to become items of negotiation and discussion at the various tables. But what we're hoping for is that we're going to get an informed populace, if you will, on what this is all about, so that when we finally get to the table, people will have a good understanding that the decisions or the recommendations were made in the full light of day with the best information that we could possibly provide at the time.
And the other thing is we will have the subject matter experts there. We will have Keenan and Associates at every benefits committee meeting that we have. So if there are questions that I can't answer, they'll be able to step in and provide a much more comprehensive response.
And the other thing I vaguely recall here in the last month or two is that they might put the whole thing off another year. Did I hear that?
I heard something about that.
That I think it was supposed to go into effect January of 14. Now they're
I
talking
think it's
about
a part of it.
A part
Yeah.
of it,
It
not
was
the
a
whole.
part
not
of
the whole
it,
thing.
yeah.
And it would not, for us, from what I understand, because our open enrollment period is the month of October, we wouldn't have had to, it wouldn't have impacted us on January 1st
Right.
anyways. It
Right.
would have impacted us October 1st. So we're good.
Yeah.
We're actually,
What about for adjunct faculty and trying to do something where, for those adjunct faculty who might benefit from having,
You see, that's a really good point, because I think where you're going with that, Mary Erin, is that Obamacare is for everybody, right? So it's possible as we go through this education process, we might be able to find a way to inform not only our adjunct faculty, but our hourly unclassified, everybody who works for the district. We might be able to provide a bridge to them to help them
with the marketplace.
with the marketplace,
So
to find a way
educate them.
into the marketplace, right?
To educate them, show them what their options are. Part of the analysis that we'll have from the vendor is whether or not many of the people that currently are not covered with insurance, if they're working on average 30 hours a week, 52 weeks a year, then they need to, in the new ACA, be covered with insurance. But if they're at the tipping point and they're not at 30 hours a week, then we can provide educational platforms for them to figure out how to enroll through.
are
the
there
state.
employees of PCC other than part-time faculty who aren't covered by insurance currently?
Hourly,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, there's,
Yeah,
oh, okay, I
student
didn't
workers,
realize that,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, our college assistants, many of them, and I know it's an ongoing challenge and concern for the issued CFT unit and classified in general, but we have, if I take my words carefully here, we have a large number of unclassified hourly who are engaged in unit work. And that's just the plain truth.
Unit work is
Classified
hourly.
unit. No, the
Okay,
classified
okay.
unit issue CFT work, and it's been that way for decades. And we're not atypical. It happens in other places as well for a variety of reasons. And it's something that the union and the district have talked about, and it's something that we are concerned about. And we need to begin to look into this. And going forward this year, I think we are going to begin to look into this and fix it as best we can. The problem is that we really can't fix it to the total degree. Well, we could, but that would result in less services to students, because the Army moves down the road a lot on the backs of the unclassified hourly people that we have. And we could not necessarily afford to replace all those people with permanent staff. So therefore, in some instances, in more instances than we might like, there would be services that could not be performed because we just could not afford all the full-time staff needed to perform those services. I think every one of us sitting around this table can give you 1 or 2 or 5 examples of where the hourly assistance is absolutely necessary for them to do the jobs that they do. But if we placed everybody with full-time people, we'd break the bank. We're already at the 90% threshold with our, the cost of our basically full-time salaries and benefits for all employees, which is dangerously high because the system would prefer 85%. The reality is 87.5, but we're 2.5 points kind of above that right now, and that's just one of our ongoing quote-unquote structural problems that we continue to deal with. So if we fix the hourly thing to its fullest extreme, we end up loading the budget with all these additional people, but that probably would result in pushing us further above that 90% mark, giving us more of a challenge. And would also perhaps have the impact of, or the result of reducing the number of services. So what we need to do is we need to work towards improvement, but I don't know if we're ever going to get to nirvana, if you know what I mean. It's just not going to happen. But we do need to work to improve it, and I know that it's something that is on the table to discuss.
So Joe, at this first meeting, I'm wondering, I know that if you're somebody who's looking to buy into like the California package, right? There are folks who did specialized in outreach about how to approach it. Is there something like that on our, like for kind of an organizational perspective? Is there someone who's
Not
helping
yet.
people?
Not yet.
Okay.
And the first meeting really is we're asking Keenan to educate the committee on what the Affordable Care Act is.
Okay.
We can ask them if they have somebody, if they have flyers, maybe we send Conna Bain, who's our benefits technician, to a few trainings.
Right.
She's becoming educated on this whole package.
Right.
So we're getting there, but we're not there yet.
Okay. Just curious. Thank you.
And one of the things that I think the committee would talk about is from an education point of view, professional development point of view, what resources does the district need to bring to bear, so we can create out of human resources probably the structure by which to do exactly what you're talking about. Right now we didn't have the need before. Now we've got it, and the benefits committee will help decide what is needed in order to. At any one time there are in the neighborhood of 2,000 people on the payroll of this institution. And if you figure we got about 380 faculty, full-time faculty, we've got about 330, 40 full-time classified issue. We've got 100, give or take, CSEA facilities people. So, and then managers and what have you. So let's just say about 1,000 full-time permanent people, and the other 1,000, give or take, it's probably more than 2,000, are adjuncts and unclassified hourly college assistants and student assistants. It's probably more like 2,500 to 3,000.
It's about 3,000.
Probably about 3,000 people that keep this place afloat, of which there are, say, 1,000 permanent people. So it's a lot going on. Okay, I like these meetings to be as full disclosure and open as they possibly can be. So that's why I can go on a little bit about this stuff.
So can I just clarify before
Yeah.
we move on? So Academic Senate, somebody's going to reach out to Eduardo, CSEA, and you'll ask Rudy for us?
Yes.
Okay. And then Faculty Association, is somebody going to ask Roger? Or
I'll ask
Yeah.
Roger.
And then I'll follow up with Maggie. Okay.
I'll talk to Eduardo, but I think he sent out a
Yeah, he has.
second,
You guys saw
didn't
something.
he?
Yeah, he did.
Sent out
But
another.
we'll remind him again.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank
So
you.
you're for CSCA, you're asking for two, an alternate and a.
Yes, and appointed, yeah. Thank you.
All right, Joe, thank you, and please express your thanks to Maggie too for your leadership on this. Hey, just FYI, we haven't had a benefits committee in how long?
I think about 2 years.
Oh,
maybe a
it's been
little
longer than that. Oh, it's been longer than that. What would you say, Deborah? Yeah, it's been four, at least four. So it's time to get it going
The
again.
names
anyway.
on the last list that I looked at, the people are all either retired
Yes.
or otherwise gone.
Okay. Speaking about retirement, and let me ask a Brown Act question, or let me get everybody's opinion on this. At the board, yeah, I hate to bring up the term.
If you're
but I
already
do.
asking, you're already in violation.
I know. So I know that, and I know that. So I'm just going to say this. I brought some stuff to talk about the supplemental early retirement plan, but it's not on the agenda. So we just can't talk about it, right?
No.
So what I was going to suggest
You
is,
needed to make that
there's some
handout.
paperwork that is in your packet. Take a look at it, and we'll agendize this for the next meeting.
This is a public meeting?
Hmm?
I mean, this is a Brown Act
This is
meeting?
about,
Yeah.
all of our
Yeah.
larger shared governance are both
Are Brown
Brown
Act.
Act.
Oh, I
Okay.
didn't know that. Okay.
So,
Well, we do have handouts.
well, it's not,
That's
that's not good
listed
enough.
in the
No, we
handout.
can't discuss it.
Hmm? No, we can't discuss it. No. Okay. So we have these speech people. These speech people seem to be very Brown Acty. I'm not quite sure what they are.
It's all right.
It's all right. All right, good. Anyway, so we won't talk about that today, but but anyway, you've got some interesting reading, and I'll be happy to talk more about it at our next meeting. So that takes us to budget development handouts, and I got two things to talk about. Yeah. Well, the handouts are close enough. Okay, so first of all, the October cash update from the Controller Chang's office. The general news there is the state is doing much better fiscally. It continues to either meet the budgetary income targets or exceed those targets. And on average, it's doing that. In a couple of categories, it's up, it's down, it's in between. But the general good news is that things are heading in the right direction. And that is supported by a very hot off the press 2014-15 California Fiscal Outlook from the Legislative Analyst's Office. And I believe that was an additional handout that everybody got. And if you go to the executive summary, which is I think what everybody got, second page, what I did is I just sort of did what you're not supposed to do from all my graduate classes, which is underline and highlight as much as I did, but I wanted to make a few points here. One, overall improved look forward for the state. The budget outlook, there's under current policy, it's $5.6 billion projected reserve at the end of 14-15. The state planned a reserve of 1.1 for 13-14. Their forecast now for 12-13 and 13-14 is that there will be $6.4 billion in higher revenues coming in. So that's obviously quite significant. You can see the next line, these higher revenues are offset by $5 billion in increased expenditures, almost entirely due to greater required spending for schools and community colleges as a result of Prop 98. So the state would end 14-15 with a reserve of $5.6 billion. Then we talk about future operating surpluses that are projected. It goes all the way through 17-18. And at that point, they're expecting surpluses could reach as much as $9.6 billion. Even though Prop 30, which was the initiative that was approved by voters last year, that's a combination of increased sales tax and increased taxes on the so-called wealthy. Even though that even though that expired in 2018, there's a gradual, that they factored in what they call a gradual ramping down, and even at that, they're projecting that operating surpluses will remain stable at just under $10 billion per year through the 19-20 year. Then they go on and they talk about healthy local property tax growth. So which means if housing values go up, property taxes go up, and all the counties collect more money, and more money goes to the state. And that results in increased property taxes that go to additional school financing and all that kind of stuff. Now, they always talk about caution, because these folks always do. The stock market could have a downtrend, we could have a mini recession hit, anything could happen. So they put in that qualifier. And then the last thing is basically the state's budgetary condition isn't stronger than at any point in the past decade. The state's structural deficit, in which ongoing spending commitments were greater than projected revenues, is no more. Over. We forecast that schools and community colleges will receive billions of dollars in new funding under Proposition 98. However, if you go back and you read the rest of that, I don't want to give any bad news or good news, but keep reading that. What it's also saying is that the governor and others could choose to pay down the so-called wall of debt. They could choose to put money away back into a rainy day fund. So even though there's money out there, folks, there's no guarantee that we're going to see a lot of that money. Okay? There's certainly a lot of people in the K-12 system, community college system, the CSU system, the UC system, fighting hard to get as much of that money as possible. The Prop 98 money is something different. There was some years ago when I think Chancellor Scott was the chancellor, there was a move to separate the community colleges from K-12 economically and try to get them to be standalone, such as the CSU system is, such as the UC system is. We are very, 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 very fortunate that came close to being a pass, but it never made it through. Because had it been passed, the pain and suffering on the community colleges would have been much worse over the last several years, because we are tied to the Prop 98 guarantee as a K through 14. So now, coming out of the recession and going into, if you will, better economic times, because we are part of the Prop 98, all those additional billions, we're going to get our piece of that. Okay? So, where all this settles, we have yet to see. I actually will be all afternoon tomorrow in a Chief Business Officers meeting where we'll be on a conference call with the Chancellor's office and we'll get more information. But the next big shoe to drop is the governor's budget, the 14-15 budget that usually is announced mid-January, late January as I recall. And that will give everybody an idea of where his starting point will be. And then we'll go all the way through January, February, March, April into something called May Revise. And at the May Revise, that's when the negotiation between the governor's office and the legislature and all the lobbyists and the CSUs and everybody who else gets into the session. And then we'll have a sense of where 14-15 is going to land. Okay? There's a good chance, and this is opinion, so don't this means nothing because it's just my opinion at this point, but there's a good chance that every community college district will see a significant chunk of one-time money, where because the statewide community college system is owed $600 million, give or take 591, $600 million of deferred revenue, monies that were owed us over the past several years that they couldn't afford to pay us. Because of all this money coming in, it's very likely that they'll say, okay, we're going to pay those deferrals down much quicker. PCC, or Pasadena Area Community College District, usually gets about 1.8 to 2% of whatever those pay downs are. So, if it's $1 million increase, we typically get 200,000 of that, give or take. So if there's $100 million of extra money that is used,
$1 million is 200,000. That's 20%.
whatever, okay, so whatever the math is. So we get 2% of whatever the math, that's why he does that and I do what I do. So 2% of whatever the number is, okay, is what we typically get. So if the system got $100 million, we would get $2 million, which is normally the way it works, because we usually the system gets in aggregate at 50, 100, 200, $300 million. So the system got $300 million and we would get $6 million. So that's kind of how that works. It's 1.8 to 2, it depends, but and it has everything to do with FTS and size and what have you, but it's usually in that range. But it's one-time money because it's paying back a debt. Permanent money is COLA increases. Permanent money is increased access, which would be, that's why we're one of the reasons why we're pushing so heavily on additional FTS is to get our workload numbers up. So our guaranteed base, FTS base, is growth. Yeah, the new politically correct term is access. They don't like to use the word growth anymore, but you're right, it's growth. It's growth money. But so that's why we're pushing so hard, because we're trying to recover 11, 12, and you've heard me say this speech 1,000 times, so I won't repeat it. But and that's ongoing money. You get your growth up, you get your base up, you get it every year. You get COLA, you get it every year. You get these one-time payments, and you get one-time payments. So if you spend it on salary increases or whatever, it's theoretically not sustainable. So that's the issue. Now, it's great news for instructional equipment. It's great news for deferred maintenance. It's great news for scheduled maintenance. It's great news for rainy day funds and building back reserves that don't exist any longer. But it's not necessarily great news for ongoing funding of anything, ongoing expenses. Julie.
Can I ask a question about COLA?
About what?
Percentage, COLA.
COLA, gotcha.
The percentage the college gets in COLA, is that on the entire budget?
It's on the general fund, so it's on the unrestricted general fund. So to make that plainer language, our budget is built up of several funding sources, including federal, including state, including local, including soft money grants and what have you. The core funding is what we call that which is tied to the FTES and the base FTES. So our 22,000 FTES that we're guaranteed. That's our budget. So each credit FTS at the moment is worth about a little over $4,600. So you take our FTS, you multiply it by $4,600, and that's one chunk of money. COLA relates to that chunk of money, cost of living allowances. And also, it relates to sometimes with some other things as well. There's sometimes
So if our
some
overall budget
overage.
is 110 million, give or take,
Yes.
what % of that is unrestricted general fund?
Well, our overall budget, when you add it all up right now, is $280 million. And that includes financial aid, that includes the unrestricted, the grants that we have, and includes what was known as matriculation, which is now called Student Support Success Program, SSSP dollars. It's made up of a whole number of things. But when we do our budget for salaries and you know, the core, we run off of about 128 million, is it this year, Joe? Something like that? About 128 million is our core operating fund, and everything else comes to us for earmarked purposes.
So about what
Or
percentage
categorical.
or how much is the unrestricted general fund?
It's about 120.
So it's 100.
That's the unrestricted general fund?
Yeah,
is
the unrestricted general fund is about 124, 128,
It's
something
about
like that.
128.
And
120.
COLA applies to all the categories within that.
Yeah.
Yes, COLA requires are now, and some COLA can apply to the. What?
It applies to Fund 1 unrestricted funds, right?
That's what they're talking about.
No, I thought I heard you say all of it. So we have 128 million unrestricted funds. with
Mary
the
Aaron
budget.
said it
All the
applies to all the
categories in that.
all the categories in it, not categoricals. All the
Gotcha.
categories
Okay.
within Fund 01.
Gotcha. Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So there are categories within that
Yes.
unrestricted area, and then there are the categoricals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which are the restricted? You can't touch.
And some of those have COLA adjustments as well, depending on how they were set up legislatively.
Mhm.
But you know, it's quite complex. Again, you know, everything's getting challenging. So.
I had a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Speaking of complex. What about the dissolution of the redevelopment agencies and the expiration of the triple?
Triple
flip?
witching, the triple.
That's on the top of the last page.
Okay, so first of all,
How does that affect us?
okay, in a significant way. Thanks, Julie. Good to see you. First of all, redevelopment agencies, better known as RDA, right? Through legislation a couple of years ago, they did away with all the redevelopment agencies, and they basically said that every community that had a redevelopment agency had to dissolve those agencies and had to send all that money to the state. And what that did is it significantly harmed school districts, community colleges, and other entities that always got a piece of redevelopment money. Okay? So, and the triple flip refers to the three sums of money that make up the general fund. Actually, there's more than three, but certainly three. One is the base money, the FTS money. The other is student tuition. The third was local property taxes. And redevelopment money was part of local property taxes. Now, they call it triple witch, triple flip. I call it triple witch, but you're right. They call it triple flip because all the money that you take in, they deduct from the FTES that they send you. So if you,
Who's
they being the state,
Okay.
the Department of Finance,
Okay.
the people who do it. So you get all this money from the state to kind of run your business. But if your property tax amount was X, or let's just say student fees, if your tuition, if we collected, I don't know what the number is, I forget right, but let's say we collected $10 million. They would say, thank you very much, we're going to reduce the payment of your FTS money by $10 million because you've done that. So with redevelopment, it's really hurt us and hurt every district because there has been tens of millions of dollars in the last several years that have been withheld from us because the state says, well, your local counties are going to pay it to you because they're collecting all these millions of dollars from the local agencies. Well, the trouble is, I happen to sit on 5 of these successor agency boards representing the California community college, our community college district. Guess what? No city wants to give up any of that money. So they're fighting tooth and nail to hold on to that money. And they have these things called ROPS, and they have all this kind of stuff that they had that basically says to the Department of Finance, if you want it, come and get it, because we're not going to give it to you very willingly. So there's probably right now, I don't think I'm exaggerating, a couple of hundred lawsuits pending. So to bring this down home, we were owed, we had X dollars of RDA money that was due us in 12-13. As of budget time, we had 4.5 million for 12-13 that was still owed us. We put it in the budget. We only planned to spend 2 million of it because we weren't sure we were going to get it all. In reality, we've gotten about 1.8 million thus far. And if you talk to Maria right now, she would say she wasn't sure if we're going to get the rest of it this year. And I'm not sure we're going to get it either. I'll find out more tomorrow. But the point is, and the reason is that money is just being held back.
So is that another deferred payment?
Yes.
And would it be paid back at some point if
Yeah.
counties and
Yes,
agencies
that definitely will be.
Okay.
It's an IOU, but again, it's not an ongoing source of money, it's just an IOU. So we've got chunks of money coming into us. What we decide to do with it is other issues. But, you know, this group could be in a decidedly better place. Remember how at the end of last year we put our wish list up there? We didn't have much money to contribute to the wish list. This year, we could. You know, we could have money for one-time things, which would be nice.
You know, last,
Vanilla, you need to go. I can see you're getting in that I need to go mode.
I have both a class and a conference happening at the same
Okay,
time.
is there anything else we can help you with before you go? Okay, all right. Thank you again.
No,
Nice
thank
to
you.
see you.
Appreciate it.
You bet.
I was having flashbacks to the last job, no biggie.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so it's all very, okay, so the bottom line is I'm done with this, except I've done with this. This is mostly good news. This is very, very good news. I'll know more tomorrow, but it may not be as good as me and my rose-colored glasses want it to be. Okay, because we still don't know when this money's coming, how much is coming, whether it's going to come to us, whether it's going to go for to pay down all the debts, what it's going to do. It's great news if you're a taxpayer. Doesn't make sense. Because if you're a property owner, your taxes are going up. It's great news because maybe we'll be able to bring back more social services. Which, by the way, an interesting point. Prop 98 guarantees stability for Prop 98 and Prop 30 guarantee stability for K through 14. Okay? Every other social service providing entity in the state that has been hacked and bloodied over the last 8-10 years, not guaranteed a penny of this money. They have to go and they've got to fight for every bit of it. So there's a lot of thinking that says, you know what, community colleges in K-12, you don't be greedy. Do not be greedy. You are in much better shape than anybody else is right now. And, you know, if we're talking about foster youth, if we're talking about, you know, food stamp programs, we're talking about medical, whatever we're talking about, that's going to take higher priority. Even our jails are, you know, that's a whole other issue, but, you know, think of all the criminals that are on the street right now. Well, I take it back. Think of all the people who have got mental illnesses who were in the criminal system because they didn't know what else to do with them. Now the penal system has put them out on the street and there's nobody here to take care of them. So there's lots of other needs out there that the state has got to look at addressing, even though happy days are here again.
And is there talk about that's what's going to happen? Is that
There's
buzz?
certainly buzz about that all these other agencies are lining up at the door. The lobbyists are in full gear right now. You know, when you see reports like this, and oh, by the way, the LAO, there's 3 entities that control money in the state. The Legislative Analyst's Office is the independent voice, theoretically. The Governor's Office is the office that controls and has a lot to say about what eventually happens. Then you've got the Department of Finance. So you usually get 3 different opinions The governor, and depends which governor you have in office, is either going to be a spend-it-all governor or a save-it-all, or kind of like a Brown governor is, right? Maybe kind of in the middle. I tend to think Jerry Brown's doing a reasonably decent job myself, but that's my own opinion. Then you've got a Department of Finance who's just the facts man, like the episode of Dragnet. Some of us are young enough. What he used to say, just the facts man. That's what the Department of Finance is. And then you've got this so-called independent, the LAO, and they really are independent, but they're usually in conflict with the governor's office.
Are they in conflict with the Department of Finance usually?
Usually they're closer to the DOF because these are more reality-based. But it depends on the political agendas, is where the governor's coming from.
Sure.
I mean, for example, a lot of people predicted that the surplus was going to be about $3 billion. Governor Brown knew it, and he still held firm to his 1.3. Okay, now it turns out it's going to be closer to $4.5, $5 billion. But the governor was trying to make a point. First of all, he wanted Prop 30 passed, so thank God that he did that. So he didn't want the good news to get up too far in front, because then people would not necessarily felt as inclined to vote for Prop 30. And frankly, I think most of us thought it was a gift and blessing from God that Prop 30 passed, because it wasn't supposed to. So, all right, I'm done pontificating. Does anybody else have anything they want to say? I just wanted to share that piece of news with you. Okay, so our next meeting is December 19th.
Is there any
Is
way we
everybody
could move
available?
that to
Yeah.
December 12th?
Yeah, does anybody want to do that on the 19th? 12th is finals week. Do we want to? I mean, we can push it off next meeting till January if you want.
I can do the 12th myself, but
Can we just put something else on the 12th? I thought we just rescheduled, or the
the
college
benefit.
council or something was on the 12th.
That was the campus meeting about the reorganization, but we couldn't decide what dates.
Oh, that's right. That's exactly right. Yeah. Let's see. Hiring committee. You won't let me change that, will you? We're going through hell and back trying to get that. 12th will not work for me, unfortunately. Well, what you're saying is you'd like to meet before the holidays, if we can, or can we push? We can push it off to like a week instead of the 23rd. We can try to back it up a week or two in January if you want.
no, it's fine. So we're just going to cancel the 19th?
Looks that way.
That's fine.
So if that's the case, I guess I can move forward with the benefits going on with that too.
Yes.
Okay, and then I'll reschedule January forward.
So somebody's meeting on the 19th.
There you go.
We may need a date. All right, folks. Thank you all.
So what's that, January, the next meeting would be January
23rd.
23rd?
It's down at the bottom of the agenda.
Oh, okay.
Future agenda
Okay.
items?
Any future agenda items, folks, other than the SERP item?
No.
Okay, hearing none.
Summary.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn. I don't get to do that here.
Second. All those in favor say thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you very much.